A lot of people might say, I don't want to do the safety inspection. Okay, I completely understand, but if I'm in your bathroom, I can at least test your water because there's 3 or 4 different things in there that have water coming out of it. I can test your water while I'm in there and just bring it up to you in conversation. While I was looking at your toilet, I did do a complimentary water test, and these are your results. Your hardness is a little high. Your chlorine is pretty high. Definitely ought to think about some form of water treatment. We do offer that.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your host, Brian Burton, in 8 minutes.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your hosts, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you once again and looking forward to one of those deep dive episodes where we're going to get real serious about none other than water treatment, an episode that is near and dear to Brian's heart and all the plumbers out there. If you're not interested in water treatment, you should be. And if you're in the other trades or you're just looking for some, if you're not a plumber specifically, we're still going to talk about some cool things. And we're going to start off with our intro, which starts right now by turning to Brian for our quote.
The really valuable stuff in life, they put on the higher shelf. So you have to qualify to get it. And if you want to reach the stuff on the higher shelf, you have to stand on the books you read. Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, Rohn.
Oh, I thought there was a short joke in there somewhere, but turns out it was profound. I like it.
Really profound. I love that dude, man. I don't give him enough credit. But every now and then I'm like going back through old Brian Tracy videos and stuff. And Jim Rohn is one of the trainers that'll kind of pop up on your feed if you're doing Brian Tracy. So every time one of his comes on, I'll watch that video too. And I'm just like, man, this he's so good. It's all so pertinent to this morning, but it was recorded, he's been dead like 16 years or something, but it was recorded probably 30 years ago. I mean, you see everybody in the crowd in like their huge collars, and like,
yeah,
and their feathered hair. And you're like, this was probably recorded around the time that Stephen Covey did his videos for the 7 Habits of Highly, which is like early 80s or maybe mid 80s or something like that. And you're like, all of this could have been written this morning and would have been just as profound.
Yeah, I still like that Stephen Covey one of the win-win where he brings up that guy with I think he's got a pretty gnarly stash, to do the arm wrestle on the stage.
Oh, dude, that one was so good. Yeah,
it is so good, but it's really dated.
Do we? Oh no, I don't mean the mustache. I could do without it. I meant the video. It's like he's talking about the concept of win-win in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and he tells this guy we're going to arm wrestle, and he picks the biggest guy in the crowd. And Stephen Covey looks like he's probably 5'10", maybe 180 pounds.
Yeah.
And he finds a guy who's probably 6'4" and like 260. And he says, now, every time you win, I'm going to give you a nickel, right? And every time I win, I get a nickel. And they push back. The guy wins, but then Stephen Covey pushes back, and then eventually the guy wins again. And he goes, and I'm paraphrasing and probably butchering this thing, but he says, hey, do you want to speed up how many times you can win? The guy says, yeah. He goes, okay, then let's just go back and forth and let me win. And boom, Steven wins. Boom, big guy wins. Boom, 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 boom. And he says, you see how much more you get to win when we both win? Just freaking blew my mind, bro. Oh my gosh. Freaking love Stephen Covey. And that whole book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the entire book is as profound as that video right there. The entire thing.
Speaking of getting things on the top shelf, that is one of the books that you should be reading.
Yep. It's one of the books that, like, there's a handful of books that everybody mentions, like, if you say, what are your top 3 books? And we used to do this, but inevitably it's like, it's the same books over and over again, It's like,
Right.
It's 7 Habits. It's Think and Grow Rich. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What else?
Brian Burton autobiography.
That's not finished yet.
No, still working. Okay.
It's in the works. The working title is Brian Burton, an autobiography.
I love it. No,
Yeah, but
you're right, Brian.
but
It ends up being a lot of like the same, but I tell you what,
Yeah,
the 7
for a
Habits
reason.
it stood the test of time.
Yep, and so have the other ones, man. Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad's one that I made my 2 older kids listen to. Like, it's an audiobook that's so easy to listen to. It's entertaining as it is valuable. But yeah, so if you hear these book titles thrown out all the time and you haven't read one of them, you need to get on that. There's a reason that classics are classics. And it's not like movies. Like, I don't want to watch Casablanca, right? I'll never enjoy that movie. But this is different. These are books that have helped hundreds of thousands, millions of people improve their lives faster than they would have done it without the book. So jump all over that. But yeah, Jim Rohn's one of those guys. And what does it mean to have to qualify for the more valuable things in life on the higher shelf? Well, in this, obviously, in any capacity, you're just talking about getting better, getting smarter, getting faster, getting more efficient, whatever it is. But in today's episode, we're talking about water treatment. And I'm guessing that we're talking to a lot of people, companies, teams that don't currently offer water treatment. Or if they do, they're very flippant about it. But it could be HVAC companies and electrical companies and people who could easily partner with a plumbing company to get people more water treatment. And when you if you're in a plumbing truck and you master water treatment that you're currently not offering, you have just immediately qualified for things on a higher shelf. You don't know what this can do for you if you're not presenting it. And I'm leaving the money out of it for a second. Money aside, we're talking about the things that your clients say about you, who have just dealt with hard water and chlorine and maybe acidic water on a well with low pH. And they've dealt with that for years and really don't even know it. Like, they don't know there's another way. But the second you have a conversation with them and they make this change, like the monthly that they're shelling out to have this water treatment, that just becomes part of what they do, and they've forgotten about it 10 minutes after you're there. But what they never forget about is how much different their water feels than the way it has felt, tasted, and smelled all the way up until this point. And they will write books and songs and poems about you. By far the best reviews I've ever had were people who got water treatment that were really hard to get to do it. The ones that I had to overcome 7 objections and 7 no's and go round and round and back and forth, and finally just kind of ended with something like the reverse engineering close, or when you use one of your masterful closes, or even the cheat code in presenting, where you just say, guys, do me a favor. Nate, do me a favor. Get this thing put in. Let's do it right now. And I'll tell you what I'll do, because you seem like you're on the fence. I will call you a week from today. I'll call you next Monday. And I'll say, does this thing do everything I said it would do? And do you love it? And if the answer to either of those questions is no, I'm coming back out, taking it out, putting your water line back in, and giving you all your money back. And I've done that on calls, probably more times than I can count. And I've given refunds on things, and I've yanked things back out, but I have never done it when I made that statement. Because when I make that statement, we're dealing with high chlorine that people hate, and high hardness. And they have all the reasons in the world to get rid of it, but they can't. They're distrustful. They can't pull the trigger. But I know from all the clients that I've dealt with that once they have it, they would never part with it again. They'll never own a home without one. And if you're new and you haven't been doing water treatment very long, you haven't experienced that. You just got to take somebody's word for it and go try it a few times, get your customers to write books about you, and off you go to the higher shelf.
Oh, I like that tie back right there. Very nice. Very nice. Well, what else is really nice, Brian? I know we're going to be talking about some water treatment today, which is super nice. I have some in my home. I actually just put an RO system under my sink and enjoying the nice tasting water now. And shout out, while I have the minute, shout out here to some of the boys over at Brita Pro, Mr. Joe Kuklis, the big Joe, the Brita Pro guy.
JK, Nathan Clark with his brand new twin
Nathan
babies.
Clark,
What's
shout
up?
out to you, man. Congrats on the twins.
Of course, El Presidente, Craig Dodd. I don't know if these guys want their names all shouted out on the show.
Too late. 'Tis too late.
We passed that point.
But they're always kind of coming out with good stuff there. And, we're big Brita Pro fans. But regardless of that, we're going to be talking about general water treatment today as we bring on our guest, PJ Piotrowski. But before we do that, Brian, it is that special time of the week where we highlight one of our fantastic listeners.
Before we do, I would just feel like straight up crummy if I didn't mention Tony from Brita Pro. I'm pretty sure that's the only 4 guys I know from Brita Pro, so I don't want to leave Tony out. Anywho, back to the review. A true guidebook for the trades. 5 stars. Nate and Brian have offered up so much helpful and useful information for myself when it comes to our line of work. Best way to start our Monday. Thanks for all you guys do. BFP OHAC, Ben Franklin in 1 hour, Montrose, Colorado. Chance Wolf.
Here I thought it was Eli, but all right, cool.
I'm guessing Chance Wolf works with our friend Eli Power in Montrose.
All right, well, shout out to you, Chance. Appreciate that.
I think I've had a text conversation with Chance before, because I remember reading his name and being like, Chance Wolf? Your name's Chance Wolf? Dude, that's awesome. Such a gangster name. Cool. Well, we appreciate you, Chance, for taking the time out of your day and out of your busy life, not only to give us an hour of your ears every week, but also to go back and download every episode and listen to them over. Probably is what you do, but also to reach out, write us a review, and submit it and make us feel good about ourselves for a minute. We appreciate that. We appreciate every single one of them.
Absolutely, Brian. And we know you're going to appreciate today's show as we put Mr. PJ Piotrowski in your passenger seat. Our guest today is PJ Piotrowski. He is from Wilmington, North Carolina. 21 years in the plumbing industry, with 18 dedicated directly to service work and 8 of those with Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, near and dear to our hearts. He's had many roles in the industry, from technician to management, and currently he is serving as a plumbing advisor and water treatment expert. He's married to his wife, Rachel. They have 2 amazing kids, Lucy and Reed. And when he's not solving the plumbing world's problems, most of his time is spent at the beach or traveling the East Coast for surfing competitions for his kids. That's awesome. Welcome to the show, PJ.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you on.
Thanks for being here, buddy. We got to meet we got to meet PJ at the Authority Brands Convention, which has been mentioned a couple times on the show. PJ was number 1 in water treatment, was it?
I don't know if I was number 1 in water treatment, but pretty high up there.
Yeah, I would think. Because you did. What are you tracking? What did you do Q1 this year so far? This is first quarter of 2024 we're sitting in now.
With water treatment or just overall?
Overall,
I'm at close to 450.
450, right. So just shy of that 500. And what percentage of that would you say is water treatment?
70%.
Okay,
wow,
that's plenty of water treatment. Yeah. If that doesn't put you at number 1 in water treatment in the Ben Franklin network, I don't know what will, because that's going to be pretty far up there.
For the plumbers out there, that's $315,000 this quarter. I just wanted to clarify that. 70%.
Right, so you're pushing $1.3 million in water treatment.
Yeah. But We have really bad water where we live. Really bad.
Oh, don't give it an excuse at the beginning
All
of the
right,
show,
well-
PJ. Come on. We're going to have to overcome that objection now.
Well, we definitely want to dive into that, but before we get too far into it, let's tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy.
I've been doing plumbing for 21 years. Started out small family-owned company in Virginia. Moved to North Carolina in 2016 and have been with Ben Franklin ever since. Before that, never sold a water treatment system, never put one in. Didn't know anything about them. I was the plumber that said, hey, you need to call Culligan.
Yikes.
And, yeah.
Those still exist, unfortunately, which is always
do.
shocking to me. And you know they do because of how many times I'll have a technician where I say, look, testing water is as mandatory a part of your service call as filling out an invoice.
Yeah.
If you're doing an invoice, there better be water test results on it. And what I hear so commonly is, oh, you guys do that? And we've been servicing a client for 10 years.
Right.
And they had no idea we do water treatment.
Yeah. We test water at every house. But like I said, I had never done anything with water treatment until I moved here. And that's actually a larger point of our business than anything. We try to move more water treatment with the plumbing as well, because we're in the house, we're looking at everything in the big picture.
So what did the training process look like for you to get from what you were doing before to 70% water treatment?
I did a lot of town halls. We have a certain chemical in our water here that kind of blew up on the news back in 2017. And so I learned everything there was about water. Went to town halls, the meetings that were held, met Aaron Brockovich.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, yeah. So
she was
movie.
in the movie. She was the waitress for I can't think of the lady's name for Pretty Woman. Julia Roberts. She was Julia Roberts' waitress in one of the scenes in that movie, the actual Aaron Brockovich, which was pretty cool. She looked just like her.
Yeah. But just Success Academy. My owner was very well knowledged in water treatment. And then Brita has been great since we switched over to them.
Yeah.
Brita Pro.
They provide good training. Brita Pro, right.
Brita Pro. Yeah.
Not just any old Brita. Brita Pro.
Nah. But the Brita name definitely makes it easier when you walk in the house because everybody knows that name.
Yep.
Hey, Waste No Day Warriors. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You want to start a business, or maybe have always dreamed of owning your own business, but just don't know where to start. Trust me, you're not alone. But the UpFlip podcast is here to help. This weekly podcast features interviews with entrepreneurs about how they started and the strategies they use to launch and grow. If you're ready to start a business, the UpFlip podcast can help you do it right. Check them out in our show notes.
Sure, and that is an amazing thing. And for the sake of today's podcast, we'll try to keep it generalized because we have some listeners that, may be Brita Pro, some listeners that won't be Brita Pro. But what we want to talk about today is the general concept of water treatment, why it's important, how to educate your client without boring them with, 5-syllable words, and then how to eventually get them to say yes, say yes to the dress, if you will. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's jump into it here, PJ. Your official title was plumbing advisor. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so give us kind of a layup here in terms of what type of call you'd be starting off with. Are you getting called out for free estimates? Or are you getting tech flips from other plumbers in the field? Are there certain type of criteria where you go out to, or is it any type of call? Give us kind of that rundown.
So it's a mixture of both. We get a lot of calls in for water treatment estimates. So those are our free estimates that we run. We call them Free Estimate Wednesday.
Interesting.
Any other day, we do a service fee to come out. But we do the Free Estimate Wednesday. But most of the calls I go to are either calls in for water treatment or tech set leads. They may not be as comfortable talking to the customer about it and things like that.
Okay, gotcha. So you're special. I mean, you said roughly 7% of your sales are in are in water treatment, and so it sounds like a fair amount of your calls are starting off with that intention. All right, so let's start there because those are kind of like, and I want to get your feedback on this. Do you believe when somebody is calling you with this specific reason, they have questions or curiosity around water treatment, or maybe they're even intending to get some form of water treatment? Um, is that an easier call to sell water treatment on, as opposed to a person who you're just out there to do, any other plumbing service? Which one's easier?
Um, the actual ones where I'm out there to do service. Usually, if they're calling in for water treatment, they've called Culligan, Connecticut, Rainsoft, all the other competitors, and basically they're shopping prices. So then I've got to build value on why you should go with Ben Franklin's water treatment as opposed to Culligan, Rainsoft, or whoever they've had out.
Yeah, and so I
Usually,
go ahead.
uh, so usually what I do is I try to look more past, like, because they're more concerned about the health aspect of the water. I try to focus more on the health aspect of their plumbing system because I know what the cause and effect of bad water is on the system. Where the Connecticut Rain Soft, they're just there to sell a system and never go back.
Yeah, and so I was kind of wondering about that because the casual listener might say, "Oh, this guy's getting like just people calling him left and right to do water treatment. No wonder he's selling hundreds of thousands of dollars of water treatment." But you're actually saying that those are the harder calls to run because there's so much more competitive landscape.
Yes. Yeah, because like I said, our water, we have PFAS, we have extreme hardness, extreme chlorine, triethyllenes, well water with extreme amounts of iron, hydrogen sulfide. So we have a lot of water treatment companies that are out there. So I have to compete with them and build more value in us than what they offer.
Yeah. And of course, that's a big piece of the puzzle here, which is the education of the client. And we'll definitely want to dive into that. And so, like, when you're approaching these calls where somebody is specifically calling you out, is it the majority of the case where they actually know, hey, I want a softener, I want PFAS, I want, carbon filtration, I want these things? Or are they generally ignorant to the fact and they're more like, I know I have bad water. I just want something.
So most of our customers are calling in because of the PFAS. So they're asking for reverse osmosis, things like that. So I kind of just go in there and tell them, here's a blank paper. How would you write your story on what you want your water to be?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what you need, what you don't need. I'm just going to try and educate you on what systems are going to work the best to accomplish what you want.
Okay. And curious, from a marketing standpoint, how do you find that most of these clients are even initiating their interest in water treatment? Because I feel like this is highly variable across the country where, you have some people who they're super into it. They already know all these terms and acronyms. They've done a fair amount of research on things. And then you have other people who are just like, water? What water? Yeah. I mean, we just drink it straight out of the tap. And like, they have no clue as to anything quality wise or anything else. So in your experience, your clientele, like, where have they been getting this prompting from? Is it coming from the government? Is it coming from social media? Is it coming from their neighbors? What's that story?
So have y'all ever seen the TV commercials or gotten an email asking, "Did you live at Camp Lejeune
Oh yeah.
from
Oh yeah.
1930 to
How can you avoid them?
1975?"
Yes.
So Camp Lejeune is an hour from our office.
Ah, okay.
Oh, okay.
So that has been part of it. But then with the whole DuPont Chem Wars and this thing they call Gen X, which is a PFAS, it's the byproduct of the manufacturing of Teflon. It's in our water. There's, like I said, Aaron Brockovich in the news and things like that. So people are moving here. We're actually the fourth fastest growing county or in the country, basically.
Hmm.
Um,
Must be
so
something in the
everybody's
water.
moving here. It definitely is something
Wow.
in the water. But yeah, we have an influx of people from New York, New Jersey, up north, moving down here because of the warmer climate,
Yeah.
being at the beach. And they've heard about the water, or they moved here and they had great water in New York, and they get here and it's horrible.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so there's a fair amount of organic knowledge floating around in the communities, in the public sphere, if you will. And so you have a semi-educated client calling you up saying, "I'm interested in some water treatment." All right, so kind of run us through like how you start that call off when you walk in there, and the setup is I'm calling in and I'm saying like, "Hey, I know I have bad water. I want you to come out. I've already gotten a couple prices, but I'm looking, to get one more." How do you navigate your way through those waters? Just going to keep going with
So what
that.
I do is once I'm there, I offer to test the water. Um, right now, we're using like just test strips, hardness, chlorine. They're on well water testing for iron, things like that. And basically, I just ask them what they want to accomplish. Do you want soft water? Do you want water that doesn't smell bad? Do you want water that's bottle quality? And just asking them. And then also, I do. I have been bringing in my PFAS filter with me under my arm under every estimate.
Nice.
Bring it in, set it on the counter, and just let them ask about it instead of kind of like forcing it down their throat.
Yeah. Okay, so you're it's interesting. You're kind of asking them what they're looking for. Do most of your clients actually have an answer for that?
Most of the time, yeah. Um, they're usually looking one. They're either complaining about their hair, their skin, things like that. So then I'll start educating them on the different types of systems that we carry, because each everywhere is different. Everyone has a different type of system they use, as opposed to what we use in our area.
Yeah. Okay, so they might mention some things like, well, my wife's hair is really, she's really been complaining about that, so we want to address that, and we found a lot of spots on our dishes when we're running, doing the dishwasher and all that stuff. It's really frustrating that it comes out spotty and everything. And there's this really kind of this smell. So they give you a couple of these things, and then you go from there. You kind of like cater a solution for them.
Yeah. So that's when I'll start introducing systems. And what I've done is created like a PowerPoint basically that I keep on my iPad. And I sit down at the kitchen table with them. We've already tested. So then I start introducing the systems to them and just giving them the basics of each system, trying not to say, this system will do this, 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 this. Just kind of basically saying and letting them decide what they like best, what's going to accomplish the best, what's going to take up the less space, what's going to work in their situation.
Okay, so I'm curious here because and without using names, because we don't need to get into the whole like name brand comparison thing here, but you have competitor X who's got their product, you have competitor Y who's got their product, and then there's you who've got your product. I would imagine unless somebody's been very specific in their like, I want this and this, you could end up in an apples versus oranges comparison because they've quoted a softener and a PFAS, and you're quoting like a carbon filter and a PFAS and an RO, and like you're not looking at the same thing anymore. So how do you navigate your way through? Well, first of all, do those differences actually occur, and then how do you navigate your way through it?
But both of them, mind you, both salesmen tell the client, this is everything you need.
Right.
Which always does somebody a disservice who's an actual water treatment expert and who knows everything that needs to go into this particular zip code based on the EWG's website or whatever. And you're really up against it. Yeah, it happens all the time, right?
Right. Exactly. Like I said, I was like, okay, here's a blank piece of paper. What do you want your store to be? Do you want soft water? Do you want chlorine-free water? Okay, so you want those things. Okay, I have this system here that does chlorine reduction and softening together. I have this system that just does softening. And then I have this system that does sediment, uh, changes the composition of hardness and chlorine. So then I just basically ask them how they want to treat it, and what their price point is.
And so it sounds to me like you're basically setting aside any other quotes and saying, hey, listen, I appreciate that's the deal. And you're just kind of putting your own thing out there based upon their requests. Now, what happens if they say, PJ, I mean, dude, you're 3 times higher than the other quotes. What happens then?
Um, I ask them, one of the things I always ask, like with like the water treatment companies, um, and if they're getting multiple quotes or they haven't come yet, I will ask them, hey, give that water treatment company a call at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. See if anyone answers their phone. Not every company has 24-hour service like we do. Um, so then I build value in that, but I also build value in asking them, yes, my system is 3 times higher, but it's got a lifetime warranty. I'm also concerned about the rest of the plumbing in your house. I don't want to just put a treatment system in and drive down the road and never see you again. I want you to call me when your toilet runs, when your water heater starts leaking, when your faucets are dripping, or your pressure's too low or too high. I want you to call me back for that. Where the other companies, they can't offer those things. They're subcontracting out the plumbing and having another plumber do it who doesn't care about their house. They're just there to get a check and put a treatment system in.
If that. They're probably not even subcontracting a plumber. They just got somebody who knows how to put shark bites on a pipe and slap that
And
thing together.
I,
Ignore
I
the
actually,
fact that they're cutting into the main water line.
right. I actually ran into that Friday. Had a customer who got a much cheaper price, but he had to find his own plumber to install that company's system. My system was definitely higher, but I was able to do everything for him, from running the loop from outside to inside, installing the system, and putting the other filters where he wanted them and where he needed them.
Yeah, I mean, what a great advantage as a plumbing, as opposed to being a water conditioning company that does plumbing, you're a plumbing company that does water conditioning, and the level of support and everything is just so much higher. That's a great competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, PJ, kind of like digging into that a little bit farther, like, okay, so they say, PJ, your quote's 3 times higher, and you pull the other quote, one of their other quotes on the table, or they show it to, and you're like, okay, well, they were offering totally different solutions. Like, they were offering different products, different, ways of dealing with this. How do you kind of walk your way through what they offered versus what you're offering in such a way that you're not like tearing them down, because we don't want to throw our competition under the bus. I don't think that's ever really a good look, but also still advocating for the fact that your solution is in fact the one that they should prefer.
So with that, they the customer, it's their decision basically. I'm going to build value in what my system offers. I mean, if you think about it, a softener from brand X and a softener from brand Y, and then a softener from me. Yeah, the media inside may not be that different. It's the warranties, it's the service behind it, things like that. So you have to build value in what you're offering the customer. Yeah, I mean, they can get it for $2,000 less, but are they going to get the same service, the same follow up, and things like that?
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's kind of move on here. So, what happens when you're the first? Like in the scenarios we've been kind of proposing there, they already had some quotes, they already had some ideas. What happens if you're the first guy in, and they say, "All right, thanks, PJ, really appreciate this. I'll definitely let you know. I'm going to get a couple other quotes."
And I agree with that. I mean, I'd let them know, sure, go ahead, get some other quotes. But again, call that company after 6, after 7. If your system is leaking, are they going to pick up the phone and be able to come out that night or tell you how to put it in bypass? Most of the time, and I've done this myself, I've called these companies after hours and get a voicemail. And it says, we'll return your call our next business day. With Ben Franklin, they call, yeah, they may not get our main office. They may get our call center in Phoenix or wherever it's located, but they're going to call a manager or somebody in the management team and say what's going on, and they'll probably transfer them over and be able to at least walk them through how to put the system in bypass until we can get somebody there.
Right. Yeah. All right. So in terms of the estimate call, the person who is somewhat educated, at least dangerous enough to ask questions and, throw some words around, you've kind of worked your way through that. What happens in those scenarios when somebody is miseducated, right? So, I'm kind of thinking of those like internet warriors who like they've looked at the blogs and they've come up with a couple of these 10-syllable words about this, that, and whatever, and they start extrapolating. Oh, well, here's what I need. I need this. I need this. I need this. I need this. And you come in there and you're like, all right, none of that's accurate. At best, some of that is partially accurate. So how do you walk a customer through, something like that where they have some preconceived ideas about what they quote unquote need, but you find that to be inaccurate?
So I asked them, one, where they got the information from, because a lot of our customers with the whole Gen X thing, well, it's been in our order for 20 years. And I'll be like, well, let me talk to you about Gen X. And I explain to them what it is, how long it's been in production, what chemical it took the place of, and things like that, because I've done my homework before I go in there. I know what the chemicals are in our water, what the water is basically in every zip code, every neighborhood, what plant the water comes from, because we do have multiple treatment plants in town. And then we have completely separate treatment systems and companies across the river in the next town. So I'm making sure I'm educating myself on everything I need to know with the water. Now, if they're like, I want an RO system for the whole house, absolutely. I would love to put a whole house RO system in for you. I mean, that's my monthly quota almost in one call.
Sure.
So,
and along with that education piece, and we'll tackle this in a later segment as well. But since we're talking about it, Brian had mentioned like the EWG website out there. When you're bringing this education to the client, especially to somebody who has a semi-aware knowledge of things, they're at least familiar with terms and stuff like that. Are you doing most of the education and explaining, and this is what this does, and this is how this works, out of your own vocabulary, or are you using any type of third-party validations or, do your own research type of thing? Like, what does that look like for you in terms of helping the client understand that you're not just, shoving it down their throat or spinning it somehow that it matters to them?
So if they bring up the whole EWG tap water database, I'm glad to pull that up on my tablet, and that way we can look at it together, and they can show me, well, these are the things I'm concerned with, and a lot of those are those 10-syllable words, but if you start diving into each one, most of those words are the byproduct of the treatment process to make the water safe from point A to point B. So, and most of those systems that we carry will take care of all of those. It doesn't get down to it until you start talking about the PFAS that you need to start looking at different systems.
Yeah. All right. So, well, speaking of looking at different systems, I want to look at a different call type here. And this would be a client who has not actively called you out for water treatment. So literally any other thing. I mean, you're a plumbing advisor, so I'm sure you get some free estimates or you do some maintenance calls, preventative maintenance or whatever it may be. But you probably also, like for a lot of our audience, they're running service calls and things like that. So let's talk about that. You're in the home for anything else besides water treatment. And I'm assuming that it is one of your goals as a water treatment specialist to engage the client with water treatment conversation somehow. So how does that conversation sound? And at what point are you bringing it up during the call?
So, yes, I love that question. I do run regular calls every now and then. I'll go in service Titan, and if I see a call that I feel like is a good opportunity, say the keywords I'm looking for are the toilet has continuously ran, and they've had 5 different plumbers out there to fix it. So there's definitely a cause and effect that's causing that toilet to run. So I'm going to run that call. Hopefully, one, talk them into maybe upgrading their toilet. I'm looking at other things. But while I'm there, I'm showing and telling. I'll take them to the toilet, and I'll take the lid off, and I'll show them the flapper that was once red that is now like a off-white pink. And I'll explain to them that the chlorine in your water is what's causing this. I'll rub it. I'll even bring a flapper in my pocket and be like, look, this is what this looked like before. This is what it looks like now. Do not put in chlorine tablets in your tank. So it is definitely the water that's causing this. This can be avoided with treatment. And I just educate them. And I wait for them to ask that magic question, how much? I'm not going to sit there and say, okay.
No, well, good opportunity, right? All right. Who wants to be a client? Me or you, Nate?
You got B.
All right. I see what you're saying with the rubber thing in the toilet, but this is $5-10 part we're talking about replacing every few years. How much are you talking about to do this water treatment thing?
So that depends. We have a lot of different systems. Are you looking just to prevent the chlorine? Are you looking, I noticed you got some white scale build up on your shower head. Kind of looks like stalactites hanging from there. That's calcium and magnesium, by the way. And that's hardness in your water. So are you looking to accomplish with removal of that, or just taking care of the toilet and everything else that might have rubber in it that's breaking down on you?
Well, you tell me. I only had you here to fix the toilet, so.
Well, I have a lot of different options. I can definitely address all of those. We have different options, different price points, all the way from point of use to whole house. The decision is just up to you. If you want to talk about that, I can show you the systems that we carry. I've got a PDF here on my tablet, and I can show you, and we can test your water, and I can show you what your chlorine levels are. Most houses in this neighborhood are probably right around 2 parts per million, which is what a public swimming pool is kept at. I don't think you really want to take a shower in a public swimming pool, do you?
No, that doesn't sound great.
So we can definitely take care of that for you with treatment for the whole house.
So what are the options? What can various systems do for me?
So we have our 3-stage system, which is going to reduce sediment, polyphosphate filter in it that's going to basically change the composition of your hardness, kind of coat it, and then a chlorine reduction filter or carbon filter that's going to reduce the chlorine and objectionable tastes and odors in your water. And then we have our Cadillac system, which is a mixed bed carbon and softener unit.
And what all does that do for me?
That's going to reduce the chlorine and also give you really good soft water. You'll use less soaps, detergents. Does your wife buy the super expensive salon shampoo?
Oh yeah, I'm not allowed to use her shampoo.
Okay, so how long does that bottle usually last her?
Oh, man, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't feel like it's very long. I feel like hers are empty before the dial soap that I used to wash my face, head, and whole body is gone. So, she's gone through 3 of those bottles of expensive shampoo.
Okay. So soft water, that bottle might last through 3 of your bottles because you're going to go down to like a dime size amount.
Oh, wow.
Which is going to save you money in the long run on that expensive shampoo.
Yeah. That soap's going to lather up real nice, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, was that it? Is that all this thing's going to do for me?
It's also going to reduce the chlorine, prevent you from having to replace this flapper every 6 months. Replace the gaskets or the cartridges in your shower. I don't know how often you've had to replace those, or do they feel stiff to you every now and then? It's kind of hard to turn on. Yeah. So that's the chlorine swelling up the rubbers, the hardness building up in there. We could definitely take care of all of that for you today.
What about drinking? Is this going to make the water pretty pure for me to drink?
Yeah, definitely. And if it's not pure enough, we do have point of use systems that's going to give you basically almost bottled water quality coming out of your tap. And I can put that at your kitchen sink, refrigerator, even your bathroom sink, so you can brush your teeth with purified water.
You can put purified water in my bathroom sink?
Absolutely.
Wow. What does that look like?
Just a little 14-inch filter that mounts up under your sink next to the cold side. It's basically almost bottled water quality with 95% 5% reduction of PFAs and pharmaceuticals and chlorine and everything like that in your water.
Wow, sounds good. All right. Again, you didn't answer, I guess, but how much are we talking about? Let's say the Cadillac system with my purified drinking water and
Cadillac system with your purified drinking water. Well, right now I've got some specials we're running. You get a complimentary bottled water quality filter with the purchase of a whole house Cadillac system. But you're looking anywhere between $6,000 and $7,000 installed, depending on if you have a loop or not in your garage.
Oof, man, I can't write a check for $6,000 or $7,000 right now.
Well, that's great because we do offer financing, pretty low interest rates. There's no hard credit check, and we can run that credit and see what you're pre-qualified for, and if it works out for you, we can get this done for you this afternoon.
You gonna ask me to buy it, or
so what do you say?
There you go. stick that hand in my chest, like Andy Elliott said here on the show a couple months ago. Just bam, stick that thing out. Can I get you taken care of today? Yeah, sounds good, man. I would say I would definitely throw at least some monthly options in there. Like we can get you down as low as, between this and this per month. Let's see what you qualify for. Just to kind of give me, because my head right now, and I've been unfortunately spending time with solar companies, not because I asked them to come over, but because they never stop coming over. And they say the total, and then my head's stuck there. But some of the really good ones will start with the monthly, and then the decent ones will say that total that blows my mind, and then they'll bring it down by saying the monthly. By saying we can get you in anywhere from 155 to 229 a month, somewhere in between there.
So with our financing, we don't really know until we actually run it what the finance company that we're using right now, until we actually do a credit check, not a credit check, but the soft pull.
Yeah, but you guys get a roundabout, like you're going to get between here and here.
Yeah,
like a percentage 0.081 times the total to between 0.022 or something like that. Yeah, so I would get those numbers figured out. Like, what are those percentages that you're going to multiply your total by, minimum and maximum, and your finance company should be able to give you that. Like straight up, here's the minimum, here's the maximum. Now you're going to get people who don't qualify, obviously, and nothing you can do about that. But if they do, it's going to be for every $1,000, it's going to be say $40 a month, somewhere between $35 and $55 a month, depending on their credit, and then you can just multiply that by 7. Okay. So that's a heck of a way to bring them off that 7,000 sticker shock. That it's real, but it is beneficial when you can start at a number that high and then you come down to a more manageable number. It's like really softening, and you feel good about the fact, or let's say I would as a client, that I'm looking at $7,000 in equipment that's going to purify my water to multiple locations, give me softer, cleaner water, do all the things you said it's going to do, remove all these chemicals from the shower, from the bathtub that I dip the babies in, And for all that, I'm just paying a small monthly installment. Like, that feels pretty good to me.
Yeah. And I didn't even get to talk to you about our memberships, where you could actually receive even better discounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring that in there.
Well, let's save that for another episode, actually. Last
PJ,
week's episode, as it were.
Right. PJ, I have a question for you. So, I'm sure from time to time you come across some unmotivated clients or some highly uneducated clients. And maybe there's, that was kind of like a setup there where you're in the toilet and you could see the flappers, degraded and some of these other evidential things that are going on. What about have you come across clients who, you're out there to do something else and maybe the evidence isn't so obvious? Like, how do you bring or I should say, are you bringing a test into the home and offering to test the water just to get a quality check? And if so, like, what does that conversation sound like? Because, some people, like, when you say, hey, can I test your water? Like the red flags go up and they're like, whoa, what are you going to, why do you need to test my water? Like, you're not here to test my water. So like, what does that conversation sound like? And how are you overcoming kind of that, that initial defense that goes up?
So, yeah, every house that we go to, we offer a safety inspection, and part of the safety inspection is a water quality test. A lot of people might say, "Hey, I don't want to do the safety inspection." Okay, I completely understand, but if I'm in your bathroom, I can at least test your water because there's 3 or 4 different things in there that have water coming out of it. I can test your water while I'm in there and just bring it up to you in conversation. While I was looking at your toilet, I did do a complimentary water test, and these are your results. Your hardness is a little high. Your chlorine is pretty high. Definitely ought to think about some form of water treatment. We do offer that. And if that's something you like to look at, we can definitely talk about that.
So like when you have that client who, they weren't anticipating anything to do with water quality, they didn't know they have a problem. They're not worried about it. They haven't heard anything on the news. Like they're completely oblivious to all things water treatment. Maybe they're not even really a believer in it. So like, how do you measure or how do you balance the fact that you carry with you all this, I'll call it what it is. I mean, it's fearful knowledge, right? Like if you actually do the research on this stuff, like it's terrifying what's in the water and what it does to you and or what it can
your
do
head's
to you.
Gonna
And
spin. It's
like,
awful.
It is literally awful. And like people are just, drinking this like lambs to the slaughter type thing. So you have a client over here who's like completely oblivious to all this terror and fear and what they're putting in their body. And you have all this knowledge, industry knowledge about, what it is and how it does and how it kills you and how fast it kills you and all this stuff. And like, how do you marry those two worlds together in such a way that you're not off-putting to the client, but you're also not, off-putting your own job in terms of educating them of a serious health concern?
So again, I try not to get too deep into like the health concerns, because I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not college educated in what water can do to somebody. I've read about what it can do. I'm more concerned about the health of their plumbing system.
Okay.
Are they going to have breakdown of their pipes, build up in their pipes with hardness? I use the artery analysis a lot. Your pipes are like your arteries, and over time, that hardness is like the fat and cholesterol that builds up in your arteries. It's eventually going to slow down your system. Your shower head, I'll take it. I've unscrewed shower heads and showed people what's inside, to help educate them on what they've got going on with their water. They just don't know. They don't understand that. They think the calcium and magnesium in the water is good for them because it's the minerals.
Yeah. Right.
Everyone's always like, "Oh, are you going to remineralize my RO system so I can get my minerals?" I'm like, I can definitely remineralize your water, but the minerals that you're getting that I'm putting back in your water, you can get just as much by eating fruits and vegetables, that we don't have to remineralize your water.
Well, we could all use some more fruits and vegetables, I'm sure. And that's, kind of parlaying off of that. So this is the piece that I want to get back to on education.
Which cut of steak has fruits and vegetables in it? I want some more, but I don't want to eat anything but meat.
Yes. So PJ, I'm curious, like, how do you speak and how do you educate a client? Like you literally know what, I'm going to butcher this, trihalomethanes or whatever.
Trihalomethanes.
Thank you.
Triethylene.
Yeah. You know what all this stuff is. Like, the 5-syllable words, what they are, what they do, where they come from. And like, are you actually using that lingo in your conversation with educating a client, or are you doing it in a different way that is not so scientific? So like, how do you balance that? Because you don't want to dumb it down so much that you're not actually talking about reality anymore. But like, it seems concerning to me when you start dropping scientific words the person's just going to be like,
Crickets.
you know?
We need a cricket
Yeah,
soundboard.
for sure.
That would've
So
been
what does
great
that
right
sound
there.
like?
So I do rely on the EWG tap order database. So I'll pull those things up. I'll talk about the disadvantages of having all that chlorine in their system. The skin, dry skin. Just asking them, are there things that you want to change about your water? Are there things that you wish were better?
Okay. And if they say, I don't know, I'm not like, it seems fine to me.
I'll ask them, do you smell the odors in your water? Does that bother you?
Yeah.
And a lot of
Yeah,
times,
it's a little nasty. I don't know.
they'll be like, well, yeah, it does kind of bother me.
Yeah.
Is there something I can do about that? And that's when I'll be like, absolutely. We have different types of treatment systems that will address those odors and taste in your water.
Yeah.
Because I could name
So with that, PJ, like another, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I could name every 10-syllable chemical that's in the water and explain to them, oh, this causes cancer, this causes cancer, this causes cancer. But they may not realize that or see that unless I actually show them on paper.
Right. And that's, that's where kind of the power of a third party can come into play.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think there's certainly a danger to being, Dr. Science there in the home and proclaiming, you shall have cancer, and
Exactly.
like, there's limits in terms of, selling out of fear has its limits, certainly. Especially if you're like stabbing in the dark or you're making proclamations that are not necessarily backed up.
Right. Like I would never tell a customer that I can remove anything from their water. I always use the term reduce.
Reduce, yeah.
Because if I told them I removed it and they go and have a third party test our water system after we put it in and those things are still in there, yes, they're probably at a 10 times less level, but they're still there. And I've told them that I'm removing these things. That's going to come back on our company. You told me you were going to remove this and you didn't remove it.
Right.
And that's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. So, in the end, like what is the passion behind your water treatment? Like, do you have personal stories that you reflect upon? Do you have happy clients that you rely upon to like drive the passion? There has to be some level of enthusiasm in terms of why. Obviously, you're doing this effectively in the home, and people are saying yes quite a bit. So, like, what is it about you or about your story or about other stories that you bring into the picture that help make the client see, like, this is valuable, this guy's serious about this, and like I should be too?
So I had a customer who actually worked for a local builder here in the area, and she called in. She moved here from New York. She was working for a local builder, and she wanted a treatment system in her house. So I went out. This was probably about 6 years ago, back when I was still a tech, and was starting to transition into a plumbing advisor back then. And I was out there and we looked at the systems. She ended up going, we were with a different company. She ended up going with one of our systems. And being with the builder, she was like, this would be really something cool that we could offer our customers. So what I did was, once I did get into the role of plumbing advisor that I previously had, I built a relationship with a lot of builders, 5 or 6 of them actually in the Wilmington area, that were offering my treatment systems during the selection process for building a house. So I get a lot of recurring revenue from that. And it's revenue that kind of just pops up, that they'll send an email, hey, I need this system installed next week. And by building that relationship with her, by putting the system in her house, that kind of helped me out.
Oh yeah, that's super. And do you, like, in terms of actual client experience, do you kind of have a photo album? You can't really do that, but like the the sort of, you know, similar experience of a photo album where you have customer stories saying like, yeah, I mean, you know, I had a client last week, you know, his name was Brian. His wife was complaining about, you know, all these frays in her hair and everything like that. And they got this product and like, she absolutely loves it. And, you know, I had another client a couple months ago and they were so sick of the sulfur smell in their water. And like, after they got this, it was just fantastic. They loved it. And they called me, you know, all the time saying how great it is. Like, what kind of stories do you have to share with people that really highlight the emotional piece of this?
So, one good thing about our company, we actually gave everybody one of the PFA filters to
Gate,
install at their house.
like all of your employees.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So we were able to actually test it out and show everyone and be able to testimonial those when we go into houses. But I keep a picture reel on my iPad of systems I've installed. We try not to put people's names out just for privacy, but I do go back to previous customers and I'll lead them to reviews online that are on Google and things like that of our
Yeah.
installations.
Nice. Well, as we're bringing things in for landing here, PJ, you know, water treatment is certainly something that has been, I believe, undervalued and certainly underutilized in the plumbing industry. And I kind of want to wrap up with this, which is basically like if I'm a plumber out there listening and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I mean, what's the big deal about this? Like, what would your encouragement be to the plumbers who are not actively selling water treatment, or maybe, you know, the homeowner literally has to beg them before they would ever even talk about it? Like, what's kind of your plea, if you will, to that listener to say, listen, guys, you really need to check this out?
Great question, buddy. Before he answers, it's a great question because there are a lot of us, and I say us because that was me early on. Like, I'm here to fix the plumbing. I don't want to be some water treatment salesman guy.
Right. Yeah. If you're not comfortable with being that salesperson, turn it over to someone that is. Set the lead for your technicians that are. All it does is pick up the phone or shoot a text. If that technician can't get there, they can always FaceTime you. I've actually FaceTime customers and talked to them about water treatment with the techs. You don't have to be a salesperson. You don't have to be an expert. You just need to know enough to educate your customer.
Yeah. So what about, and I think you were kind of going there at the end, but what about the, the probably not too rare technician who's just considering maybe doing this with water treatment, and he or she is the only plumber at the shop that's even considering it. So there's nobody to turn it over to. If you're in Phoenix, you text me and you turn it over to the Ben Franklin Phoenix, and we'll take it from there. And nice job with the lead, by the way.
Yeah. Learn as much as you can. Lean on your sales distributors, the people that make the product. Let them teach you about the systems. Learn as much as you can. Watch Success Academy classes. Listen to your podcast.
Wait, what was that last one again? I'm sorry, I missed you.
Listen to your podcast.
Oh, right. Which podcast is that again?
Waste No Day.
Waste No Day. That's right. Oh, thanks, PJ. I couldn't remember. Nate's turning green over here. Nate loves self-promotion, buddy. He loves it.
Just educate yourself. And that's what I did. I mean, like I said, I knew absolutely nothing about water treatment. And when I first learned, I basically was told, dirty water comes in, clean water comes out. And I took it from there and
Boom.
Just kept learning.
Killed it. What else do you need to know? You know, it is an issue with water that's coming out of the kitchen faucet, because I pour it in a very clear glass and look at it against the light out of any tap water in the country, pretty much, municipal water, maybe not all the wells, but city water. And it's clear as a bell, man. And you are going to present this to people who are hard-nosed. My water is clean. I've been drinking it for 25 years. I'm as healthy as a horse, and so is everybody in my family. And on you go. And it is difficult versus like indoor air quality products where you can pull a register off and get a flashlight and your phone camera and say, ma'am, have a look at this. This is how gross your ductwork is, but you can't do that with water. The tests are great, but you will also, if you're just starting to do this, you'll run into people who look at you do your little voodoo test and think it's total nonsense. Like they don't believe it at all.
Absolutely. Because according to the EPA and the federal government, our water is perfectly safe coming out of every tap.
I don't even think the EPA says perfectly safe. Safe enough, I think is how they
safe enough.
It.
Safe enough.
It's safe enough, unless you get a boil water notice in the mail 4 days after they issue the boil water notice, which is always great.
I do like when I'm at customers' houses. If I notice there's bottled water everywhere, I do bring that up because what they don't realize is that bottle of water they're drinking out of that plastic bottle probably has more chemicals and PFAs in it than what's coming out of their tap because it's been stored in warehouses that are hot, left out in the sun. We don't know where it comes from after it's bottled.
Yeah. Well, PJ, that is good information to end on, man. And before we do, if people are interested in learning more about you, your concept of water treatment, your presentation in the home, or just they'd like to, I'm not quite sure about this, they want to bounce some ideas off you, where's a good place to connect with you?
They can connect with me on Facebook, same name, PJ Piotrowski. There's not many of us out there. Or they can shoot me a text or call me at 910-368-7727.
Sweet.
910-368-7727 in case you're driving.
Yep. And if they want to come out, hang out at the beach for a few days, they can hang out and we can look at water treatment together.
Bro, you didn't even offer us that.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Come on. Right, done and done. My wife loves the Carolinas.
Oh, man. Well, thanks, PJ. It's been good to have you on, and we wish you well as you continue in your journey, hoping to set some new records this year, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. It was great to meet you at convention, and we will almost definitely see you there next year.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, that's a wrap for this episode. We hope you enjoyed your time with PJ. It was good to hear from him. Always good to have a water treatment episode on, and it has been a minute since we've done that. And so if you are not selling water treatment or you're not selling it effectively, we highly encourage you to take a deep dive on that. You don't have to go all scientific, but you do need to understand it is a real thing that people are interested in and could be the next big step to you in your plumbing career. And so if that's not a thing for you, check it out, get into it, figure out who's doing it and who's doing it well, and ask them some questions. If you're doing it already, we encourage you to keep it up, man. There's more products every day that are getting even better at filtering out more things and providing clients the access to clean water, which, by the way, is something that everybody actually really wants. And so that is something that you can get even better at, and that there's more things to do that great service for those clients. As for now, we want to leave you with our weekly challenge, which continues to be the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.